CNN finally started to call what is now happening in Zaporizhia region, and a little bit in Donetsk region not a counteroffensive, but a reconnaissance battle. Now we wait and see how the rest of the experts begin to change their minds and stop calling this operation a failed counteroffensive. It was the same on the northern bridgehead, when Kyiv was given 96 hours and called the fall of the capital inevitable, and then watched as the Russians made their first goodwill gesture. It was similar on the eve of the Kharkiv counteroffensive, when Daniel Davis, who was replicated by Russian world propaganda, declared on the 30th of August 2022 that nothing would happen. And then, when everyone was saying that on the right bank of the Kherson region the Ukrainian defense forces had no chance because the Russian troops were thoroughly entrenched, the occupants fled to the left bank. And this is all to the question of the expert environment, for years very subtly spreading Russian narratives, which only a few days ago claimed that the Ukrainian counteroffensive had failed. Unfortunately, our society has not learned restraint and hygiene. In search of hype and traffic, many sometimes play the role of useful idiots and engage in spreading misinformation and manipulation. As for reconnaissance combat, it continues. And how long it may take is not for the experts to decide, but for the general staff of the AFU. The only thing that is obvious is that one of its tasks is to break through the supply line, which we can observe. But experts and sofa gurus do not know this for some reason. Probably because one of the elements of demoralization of the enemy is the relaying of panic sentiments in the format all is lost. And in the first days of the battle reconnaissance, instead of closing the holes called mouths, everyone simultaneously began to take part in the discussion of what was going on. Yes, it's okay to discuss, and that's fine. But not using information from the enemy that destroyed hundreds of Leopard 2 and 1 million NATO mercenaries. You see, the tanks of the Ukrainians burned down. Are you serious right now? What do you think happens in war with tanks? But at the same time, few people wondered how much and what did the occupants lose. But a bunch of useful idiots helped to create a demoralizing news wave from a burnt-out Leopard 2 for a few days. This is purely a psychological attack, playing into the hands of the Russian side. At the same time, no one paid attention to the fact that there were minimal casualties among the personnel during this breakthrough. And all because the armor of the M2 Bradley was several times stronger than that of the Soviet infantry vehicles. And for a breakthrough needed such machines. Because the supply lane was dotted with mines and landmines. If you have a task to break through the defense line, studded with mines, roadside bombs, secrets with ATGM, moreover under a massive artillery fire, what kind of technique will you use to not only complete the task, but to save the lives of the personnel to the maximum? That's why everyone who asked in the last few days why they didn't send old T-64s and infantry fighting vehicles to break the main line, in my eyes went lower and lower every time, not as a specialist or an expert, but just as a human being. Because even one life is more valuable than a few tens of tons of metal. And yes, the process goes on. Combat reconnaissance has a development and probably in a couple of days we will know about its results. But it is desirable to draw it from official sources, not from many expert sources. At least in this way we should show respect to the guys who are out there right now chewing their way out of victory.